let me delve right into that because I wanted to talk to you today, not as a football analyst, but more as parent of a player currently playing
Hmm.
college football. And also, RC, I mean, I think it's worth noting as well. I mean, you went through your own very significant health scares
Hmm.
during your career that I think a lot of people are aware of. So,
Yep.
with that as sort of the context and the backdrop, just as a dad, like when you and your wife talk with Jordan about playing and with COVID and everything right now, what are your conversations like?
Man, you're gonna think this is crazy. Like we haven't had any conversation.
I don't
Be
think that's
totally
crazy.
honest. Be totally honest with you. Jordan was in the kitchen one day, and we were talking about just because it was on the news about parents allowing their kids to play, or certain kids or certain young men not wanting to play college football. And Jordan said before the conversation even started, if there are games played, I'm playing.
Hmm.
And I said, okay. And I went on to doing whatever else I was doing. I was probably eating ice cream or some sort of snack at the time. Um, and I understand it. And it's hard for, like, the one thing that happens when you're a parent who played a certain sport is you obviously view that sport different. When Jordan wanted to start playing football, I didn't force him. I actually tried to talk him out of it. I was like, man, you're so good at soccer and you like basketball, because I understood what I would put him through if he wanted to play football. Like, I knew it wouldn't be fun until he got to play games. And so he's like, nah, Dad, I want to do it. And I was like, okay, we're going to do it the right way. I think the other thing is Jordan's dad, after losing 45 pounds, his spleen, his gallbladder, a small piece of his liver, Jordan's dad decided to assemble a team of doctors that would convince the Pittsburgh Steelers that even though he almost died the last time he played in Denver, that if they did things right, because he no longer had the organs that would be affected, that he could live. So if he could live, he could play. That's what Jordan's dad did.
Mm.
And I was also a part of the NFLPA executive board when we started to get many of the concussion facts that we see today, many of the things with the CTE. And Jordan's dad and mom sat at the counter and talked about it, and it took us 3 seconds to say, well, we already knew that. Let's finish playing.
Mm.
Jordan has a mom who watched her husband get in many car crashes, and she understood the rules. She knew that if both players were down, she'd be in the suite or in the stand saying, Clark, get up, get up, get up, because as long as we got up first, we won. And I'm not saying that this is the right way to approach things. I'm not saying, but it was our way. It's the way that we saw the game. We understand the inherent risk of playing football. We sat down with Jordan and talked about those things. And we can be honest, whether it be head injury, neck injury, all of the things that can go into the game. And now you add COVID-19 to it as well. And it's his choice. And if he decides to play, we're going to support him. And he has. And so it hasn't been much conversation. You hope that every, protocol is adhered to. I've been talking to them already. The first thing they did when they got back on campus was have a physical and a COVID test. I asked him about the protocols within each workout group. And protocols go, if someone in your workout group is around someone who has tested positive, or they test positive themselves, that whole workout group is no longer able to play. Kind of like many people were up in arms about the numbers at LSU when there was 30 people supposedly quarantined, but it wasn't 30 people that tested positive. But they're doing their best to keep things as sanitary as possible, as clean as possible, and also keep people from around anyone who can have been even close to in contact with COVID-19. And I think that's all that you can truly ask for, Matt. And, my son worked his whole life to get to this position, so I'm not going to impose my thoughts on what he should do. He wants to play. I'm going to try to make sure he does that in the safest way possible.
If you were still playing, would you feel comfortable playing either college or NFL right now?
Matt, didn't I tell you I was trying to convince the people that I wasn't gonna die? Like, Matt, so they told me, bro, I was like, okay. I was like, so I don't have the spleen in the gallbladder anymore, so I won't feel sick, right? And they were like, well, you'll probably still get sick because the exact same thing that happened will happen again. So my blood will sickle, I'll go through crisis. I was like, but will I die? And the answer they gave me wasn't like this super definitive, no, RC, you won't die. But they was like, you probably won't. And I was like, oh, bet that. That sounds great.
Got it.
You know, and I'm not the brightest, I guess. And, you know, and so for me, I would play. I think guys kind of feel the same way. In football, there's invincibility. I think you sometimes feel, and it's probably not safe because it keeps you or it makes you do things that you probably shouldn't. But that's also what makes us different humans. You know, when I'm training guys and I'm trying to force them to do things, and I'm forcing them to do things that I did that I find very valuable in helping players be their best, that probably necessarily, no, I'm gonna say necessarily, they probably aren't necessary. Like, dudes could probably still be good and not do some of the things that you ask them to do, but it's a mentality that you're trying to build. I know right now your legs feel like you can't take another step. I know that the lactic acid that is built up, I know that the way you feel right now, you can't move. And in knowing you can't move and knowing that you can't get up, I want you to push this sled 5 more yards. And that's because I know there's going to come a point in the fourth quarter, you're going to be standing across from Julio Jones, or if you're an offensive lineman, you're going to be standing across from Aaron Donald, you know, or if you're a safety, you're going to be looking in the eyes of Drew Brees, and you're going to be tired, and you're going to have made bad plays that day, and you're going to have gotten dogged. But you're going to have to find something that other people don't have, which is why they are in the stands. And I think all of that goes into Tom Brady already working out with people in Tampa Bay. He understands the protocol, and listen, I can't speak for Tom Brady, but if I'm Tom Brady and I'm sitting on the sofa and I'm the greatest quarterback that's ever lived, right? And I'm looking at CNN or I'm watching whatever news I watch, and I'm seeing beaches, and there's a ton of people at the beaches, and I'm seeing bars, and I'm seeing restaurants open, and all these things going on where, forgive me for saying it, but lay people, normal people, people that supposedly have good sense are doing these things just to be doing them. You think I'm going to pass up on football? You think I'm going to allow a moment of getting better to not happen? And that's just the way that those guys are wired. That's just the way those guys work. And so in working that way, Matt, I just think it's hard for them. Now, if everybody was locked in the house and couldn't do nothing, I think dudes would stay at their house.
Yeah.
But the fact that LSU got people on campus, Arizona State got people on campus, bro, the Cali High Bears are working out. You know what I'm saying? Think about that, man.
Got to go get that ring, man. Come on.
Hey, listen, I already told you, bro. They got the best coach in the state. I stand on that.
Hey.
But what I'm saying is, you know, you see all these things happening, and just these guys are built a certain way, and I think that they're going to do their best to play the game and hopefully be safe as possible.
I'm glad you said RC, because when I say it, it just doesn't have as much pop coming from someone who played and has a son who plays. And the pushback is, well, it's just football and entertainment. Why are we putting people at risk? And I'm like, well, it's their choice. And what's more, young people don't seem to be too susceptible to this. They all seem to be rallying well from this. So I don't know, man. I guess it hits. It's more potent coming from you because you played, because you have a son who plays as well. Is there any scenario that you could see unfolding where you would say, all right, Jordan, come on back, man. Let's give this another thought.
Oh, you know, I'm not sure. You're a dad and a great one, and you kind of never know how things are going to feel when it comes to your kids. You know, there are things that you would go through that you never want Drew to go through.
Yeah,
You
you're right.
know,
You're right.
and then there are things that you would experience and maybe not necessarily feel a certain way about them, yet you never want your little man to go through it. You know, same. You know, Jordan had an incident at a Whataburger in Tempe, which is an incident that I've had many a times in my life and never really thought about it in the way that it affected me when Jordan was put in that situation. And so I don't know what it would be. I mean, honestly, maybe it would take someone on his team or another college athlete getting it at his age under the same protocols, under the same guidelines, and being sick, and maybe, and God forbid, being on a ventilator. Or, you know, we've seen people lose their lives. And I think if something like that happens, obviously you don't want it to, then you got to reevaluate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Matt? Like, none of us are dumb enough to believe that it can't happen. You know, you kind of hope it doesn't. And I think the other piece that's different, though, Matt, is like, what is the difference between the I understand the contact of football, but bro, have you been to Mango's on a Friday night recently? Bruh, so
I get it, man. For those
Matt,
that don't know, it's the outdoor volleyball place.
Matt, against Daddy's better wishes, right? Because Daddy is like COVID crazy. I spray people down. So we decide that we're still gonna play beach volleyball, bro. Right? I say cool, you know. And I wasn't going, like, my initial thought was I'm not going. But then I'm like, what type of grown adult father and husband sends his wife and child to a place he won't go? You know what I mean? That's like saying, hey guys, we're going to the zoo and we're gonna walk through the lion's den. And I'm like, y'all two can go get 8. I ain't going. You know what I mean? Like, if them dummies want to go get 8, I got to go with them. We all got to be on a lion plate. You know what I mean?
Oh, God.
So, bro, we pull up, and it is the parking lot of Death Valley. Bro, no, for real, dog.
Or Traction on a Wednesday night.
Oh, my goodness, bro. It's the parking lot of Death Valley at 2 o'clock on the Saturday. We play Alabama at 7. That's what it looks like to me. And so, you know, man, like, I'm the weird dude, right? So, because when I pull up, I hop out in the mask. I make sure I get a spot where nobody's around me. All the other parents that have a daughter on Logan's team are making fun of me. They're saying I'm weird. They're like, oh, no, don't walk up to Ryan. He doesn't want to be touched. I'm like, you're dang right I don't want to be touched. You don't even have to wave to me. I won't even think it's rude. Sweat might fly off your hand, hit me in the eye. We can't never be friends again. But that's, you know, and so, like, that is like, man, you don't understand, bro, the anxiety, bro, I have at Mango's every week. You know what I mean? But, like, that's what the world looks like now. And so it's so hard to tell people, man, you know what? Like, you can't go do certain things. You can't go play football, or you can't train, or you can't do this. And so, man, we're just trying to, you know, do the best we can.